Craig, firstly, let's revisit a moment in the House of Representatives from July 2021 when you asked a rather pertinent question of your fellow members.
We will deny you the freedom to earn a living. You will lose your job. You will lose your family home unless you submit to taking a medical intervention. This is something that we have fought against. This is something against the Anzac spirit. What is wrong with you people?
Craig, it's not often a Member of Parliament asks the whole House a question like that. How isolated did you feel back in Canberra back then when you were almost the lone voice, you and George Christensen and maybe one or two others, standing up for Australian values and freedoms back then?
Look, it certainly was a bit of a lonely period of time. All the invitations to drinks and dinner on a Wednesday night sort of dried up. People would sort of like see you in the corridor and walk the other way. But look, it was, I make no apologies for what I did. And I believe history has shown that I was correct. Everyone now is running 100 miles away from these mandates that we had. There was never any science. Even the Prime Minister has admitted there was never any science behind it. Why the Prime Minister didn't stand up, he had an opportunity to stand up. Federally, the federal government had the power to stop all the mandates at the state level. Every state premier also had that power, but it was a period of madness in this country. And remember, this is still going on. This hasn't ended, and some people like to say, oh, just forget about it, it's all in the past. There are people today that are still out of work, that are still mandated out of their job because they refused to undergo a medical intervention. Now, we've signed up as Australia to international human rights treaties that simply say you cannot use coercion and disadvantage to force someone to undergo a medical intervention. And that is exactly what we did.
Those people who are mandated out of jobs at the moment, are they contacting you? Where do they go?
Look, they're trying to raise as much of these issues as they can. There was someone on 2GP radio stations the other day, a paramedic down in the New South Wales country town of Tumut that's been mandated out of his job. So he's fit and he's healthy. And as the science now tells us, being vaccine-free, he is less likely to have COVID than someone that's been injected 2, 3 or 4 times, and yet he is unable to do his job. So every person in that town, in that regional area, their lives are actually being put at risk. Because when someone picks up the telephone, if you have something wrong with your elderly parents or your children, and you pick up that telephone and you dial 000 and you call, it's an emergency, and you want an ambulance to come to your house as quickly as you possibly can, that ambulance service is not as resourced as it otherwise should be because we've got ambulance officers mandated out of their work. So we say, oh, sorry, we can't send around John, the ambulance driver. He could drive, he's fit and he's healthy and he could drive the ambulance, but we're not letting him because he hasn't submitted to being injected several times. This is the madness that we are going on. It has cost lives already, and it's going to cost more lives until all these mandates are obliterated. And then there has to be some reckoning of this. There has to be some acknowledgement that those people that enforce those mandates, not only did they abuse human rights, absolutely crystal clear, they will be recorded in history as abusers of human rights. They should apologise and they should make sure everyone that was mandated out of work gets back paid.